Hello and welcome. In the previous video, I talked about the holiness of God and the beauty and majesty of His creation. Today, I'd like to talk about who we are, why we are, and our value. I'll continue in Genesis as it gives the account of God's creation, including the creation of man. Genesis 1:26 says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, in our likeness.'" What does that mean, to be made in the likeness of God? First, let me give you some definitions. I find that definitions help provide clarity whenever I'm trying to understand a concept. The definition of image: a natural resemblance, a representation, the way in which a person is perceived. Likeness: the state or quality of being like, a duplicate, an image, a picture. We have a natural resemblance to God, have characteristics of His, are images, reflections, representations of Him. What does that mean, to be a reflection of God, the Creator of all things? Up until this point, God has spoken everything into existence. He said, "Let there be," and it became. But now it changes. Genesis 2:7 says that God formed man from the dust of the ground. Man was formed with God's own hands. This is different from the rest of creation. This is personal, intimate. Man bore the marks, the fingerprints of his Creator before he drew his very first breath. We are individually and lovingly created by God. The same God that hung all the stars in the sky made you and made me. Genesis 1:31 says, "God saw all that He had made, and it was very good." He makes good things. He makes beautiful things like birds and butterflies, snowflakes, sunsets, and us. If we are each made by Him to be like Him, with characteristics of Him as representatives of His, how should we treat each other? How should we treat ourselves? God's creation is beautiful and displays His glory. We are part of that creation, made to display His glory. Psalm 139:14 says, "I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. His creation and His works are wonderfully and fearfully made. We are part of that creation. We are wonderfully and fearfully made. God's creation is huge. Yet in all of its vastness, you and I are individuals. I am me, and you are you. What went into making you who you are? I'd like for you to do something that will help illustrate who and why you are. You'll need a piece of paper and something to write with. I want you to draw something. Doesn't matter how good you can draw. It doesn't matter what you draw. You can draw anything, as long as you only take 2 minutes. This illustration also works well with modeling clay. You can make anything you want, as long as it only takes 2 minutes. Don't cheat on the time, only 2 minutes. I want you to pause the video now and make or draw something. What did you make or draw? Is it something you like? Is it something that you love? Something you like spending your time with? Is it a representation of someone you love? Or did you simply make or draw the very first thing that popped into your head? Now, as many times as I have done this illustration, I have never had anyone make or draw something that they disliked or that they wanted to avoid. Just as you made something that you thought of, so God makes things that He thinks of. You see, we are the thoughts of God. At the moment of your creation, you were the first thing that he thought of. Something he loves. Something he likes to spend his time with. And that thought, you, pleased him enough for him to make it reality. To make it flesh, a living and breathing being. Now, what does God think of? Does he think of hate or ugliness? No. God thinks of and creates everything in beauty and perfection. You were made in beauty and perfection. Now, I know right now you're thinking, I don't feel beautiful and I know I'm not perfect. So what happened? Well, after you were made in beauty and perfection, you were born into a world cursed by sin. And that sin curse affects everything and everyone in it, including you. And during your time on this earth, it's going to give you a lot of trouble. However, God is God. And so, because of the sacrifice of Jesus, we are victorious over that curse. And who we are in this world is not of this world. While you're in this world, there will always be someone who will tell you who you are not, what you cannot do, what you are not capable of. There will always be someone who will tell you that you're not pretty enough or not handsome enough, that you're not strong enough, tall enough, rich enough, fast enough, smart enough. In fact, no matter what, you are just not enough. Now you will have to choose every day who and what you believe. Will you believe the lies of this world that say that you're not enough, or you believe the true word of the living God who created you, who gave his all for you, who loves you? You see, those people that are lying to you, they have had the same lies spoken to them. They have also been told that they are not enough, that they will never be good enough. And so it goes from person to person and from generation to generation without end. Let's talk about value for just a moment. The value of something is normally determined by how much someone is willing to pay for it. But how do you decide what you're willing to pay? Tell me what you think of when I say Lamborghini, Tiffany, Cartier, Stradivarius. Most likely you recognize these names, these makers, and you know their reputations already. Even if you never want to own a Lamborghini, you understand the beauty, the power, and the price of the machine. You know that Tiffany and Cartier make beautiful, expensive jewelry with the best metals and jewels made only by the most experienced jewelers. A Stradivarius is a beautiful and rare instrument. You can't just run down to the store and get a new Stradivarius. They don't exist. In 2010, some thieves stole a case that contained a Stradivarius and a bow. At the time, the value of the Stradivarius was $8.1 million, and the bow was worth $93,000. The thieves tried to sell both items for $150. They did not understand the value of what they had. We don't understand our value. Now, since value is normally determined by what someone is willing to pay for an item, let's talk about what causes you to pay for something, such as beauty. God's creation is beautiful and diverse. We are part of that creation. Rarity. There is only one you. There will never be more than one you. You are exceedingly rare. Price. Our price is the sacrifice of Jesus. And that sacrifice is priceless, beyond compare. Maker. Our Maker is God Almighty. And as we learned earlier, He makes very good things. We are beautiful, rare, and costly, and bear the mark of our Maker. You are valuable because God says you are valuable. Other people, social media, friends, family, do not get to decide your value. That is not their right. It's not within their power. God and God alone has determined your value, and He determined it when He chose to create you because He loved you, and when He chose to sacrifice His Son in order to restore relationship between you and Him. And God does not change His mind. 1 Samuel 15:29 says, God does not lie or change His mind. Malachi 3:6 says, I, the Lord, do not change. James 1:17 says, every good gift is from our Father, who does not change. If He says you are valuable, you are valuable. Stop believing the lies of this world and start trusting the true word of the living God. You are worthy, you are valuable because He has made you so. Remember, He chose to create you. He chose to love you. He chose to sacrifice His Son for you. Good day, and God bless you.